I am Ariane, this is Book Zealots, and my May wrap-up. What a month! Okay, so we had Asian Readathon, we had the Banned Book Read-Along, we had Buddyreads. I had a couple of books that, so the historical fiction read-along. I mean, there's just all kinds of things going on in the month of May. And I had a couple of distractions happening, but it was a fairly productive month. So let's dive into it. What did I read? I read North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. Finally, thank you to my buddy Reed, my newest bestie ever. And so this was, I literally laughed out loud at the end of this. Oh my goodness. And my buddy Reed pointed out how very similar there are things that happen in this book that happen in Pride and Prejudice. Now this book came first. This book came first. Anyway, another buddy read. Thank you, Chrissy. The Liar, It Takes One to Catch One by Steve Kavanaugh. This one felt like somebody else wrote it. I liked that there wasn't as much cussing as in The Plea. But the ending felt really anticlimactic, and it was like, who wrote this? However, the good news is we're going to read the 13th. Okay, so this is for June because that's the original book that we were planning on reading. Right, another buddy read was The Pioneers by David Mccullough. I learned so much about this. Part of the exploration of territories like the Ohio Territory, which this takes place, I've never really been that curious about. I've been curious about like Daniel Boone, where he came over the Appalachia and, you know, went into Ohio Territory, was actually kidnapped by a Native American tribe, escaped, ran from Ohio to Richmond, to the fort that is in Richmond, Kentucky. How many days did it take him?
3 days.
3 days.
Ish.
I have a book. Of course I do.
You'll find it.
I have a book that I need to read. Maybe I'll add it to my summer reading list. Anyways, I think both Linda and I had a great time. I'll put BookTubers' channels down below. I think she and I both enjoyed David McCullough's writing. It takes a little while, not a little while. I mean, this takes a little while to get into. This is a very slow burn. It's not dry. It's not textbook dry, but there's a certain foundation that David McCullough lays where you need to know the people that are in what's happening. There's some extreme violence in this. So if that disturbs you, either don't read it or skip over it. Because there's one section where I thought, how does anybody know what happened at this one particular area, this cabin? Because if everybody died, but no, wait, hold up, pull the reins back. There were 2 survivors, and that's how word got around what happened. So, yeah, it's a very good book. So for historic readathon, as well as, and I don't have my notes in front of me, as well as Chantel's, I think it was, I don't know. I'll put the information below because I don't have my notes in front of me. So I think this covered about 4 prompts for different things. Anyway, I've had this book for ages. I'm glad to have finally finished it. It was odd. It was very odd. Prometheus is laughing at me. It takes place in Franklin, Tennessee. There is actually a plantation, or was a plantation in Franklin. The people that lived there are real. The story is fictionalized. The cemetery for the Civil War is real. So there are facts woven in to this story, hence historical fiction. So the main character was off her rocker. And I'm thinking, well, you know, if you lose 2 children and then there's a Civil War, I'm assuming there were a lot of women that went off their rocker. There were probably a lot of men that went off their rocker. And I think everybody already knows, I'll try and put a card here if I can remember, A Wrinkle in Time. This was disturbing. We have 3 more, the tetralogy, the quadrology. I don't know what we're going to do with this. We might burn it. Asian Readathon. I am so glad that I was able to participate this year because it was wonderful. So, Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet. So endearing. Such a sweet book. I was telling Prometheus about it, and he mentioned the fact that, oh, it's nice to see that it's told from a Chinese perspective instead of the American perspective about what happened to the Japanese during that time period. Okay. So, if you haven't read this book, I would recommend it. There was somebody that had mentioned there was a part in it that she felt she had to suspend reality that this would have happened. But who knows? Who knows if it would have happened? So, anyway. The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. There were parts of this that I liked and parts of it that I did not like. And the American generation of the Chinese women were spoiled, rotten brats. But other than that, it was very interesting. Very interesting. I won't be keeping it, but it was interesting, and I'm glad I read it, and I'm very glad that I participated in the Asian Readathon. And we had delicious food. And we found a wonderful Asian market in town. One of the books that slid into my reading for the month was because it became available on Overdrive. And so I was listening to the audio as I was following along, and that is Dark Agenda. Now, when I bought this book, I didn't know who David Horowitz was, and I don't know how this part... Anyway, it says the war to destroy Christian America. So I don't know what I read that made me pick it up and buy it. I don't even know where I bought this. I think I got it at Ollie's. Anyways, I think I'll have to do a separate review on this because the agenda has been going on for longer than we are aware. Maybe, maybe not. Longer than I was aware because I wasn't born yet, or just like barely born. So apparently the narrative, the rhetoric that is spewed today is the same garbage, the same name calling that happened then. And I found it so intriguing that they still want to live how they want to live, when they want to live it, without any repercussions, without any accountability. And yet when life happens, because cause and effect, they blame the conservative Christian. nothing has changed. More of the same. Anyway, that was my month. So this is, let me bring this over. This was my May. I have other books going on. I'm still reading Roanoke. I haven't picked up Mayflower in a while, but I have them on my nightstand. And then I have a couple of books that are on my breakfast table. I'm just curious, do you guys bring books with you from different rooms throughout the day? Anyways, thank you very much for joining me. Hope you guys had a very successful May. And now let's look forward to June. Bye.
A nationalist Chinese. Well, actually, it wouldn't even. I'm not gonna. No. It probably wouldn't have mattered what side of the Chinese line you went on. They probably would have agreed either way.
What?
If you got a communist Chinese or a nationalist Chinese, either way at that time period, they probably wouldn't have argued too much with what was going on in America. Both of them suffered at the hands of the Japanese. I mean, heck, it was almost enough to unify China. Almost.
Oh, that's weird.
Almost. They didn't yield. They stuck their feet in the mud on that one.